Hey you guys, it's Monica and welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been rocking with me. And before I even start the commentary on this video, I looked at my stats for a change and I noticed that most of y'all watching this video are not subscribed. Spoiler alert, it is free, so please hit that subscribe button down below. If at the end of the video now, if you like the video, after you subscribe, turn on post notifications. Appreciate it. Now to the commentary. Okay, so I asked you guys on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should follow me over there too. That is also something that comes free of charge, a part of being a part of this group. Period 6 Designs is my Instagram page as well. And I asked y'all, did y'all want me to make a fabric tumbler? And it was an overwhelming yes. And so today that's what I'm doing. So this is a Hog 20-ounce skinny tumbler. I believe this one is the taper version. They have the non-taper version available. No, I'm lying. This isn't a Hog. This is a Steel Magnolia, the taper version, pre-prepped. And so what I did up to this point is that I like to pre-cut my tumbler fabric to this about the size of the tumbler that I'm gonna need, because that's just easier for me. I know I don't really know how other people do it, but that's how I do it, because again, that works for me. And always when you're cutting your tumbler fabric, please remember to cut in the part of the design that you like. And so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay down, try to cut this first edge, that the edge that's going to go down on the cut first, try to cut that as straight as possible. So make sure you have good scissors. I use scotch tape scissors. Those are my scissors of choice that I use to cut my fabric. This fabric, of course, you can see it's Golden Girls fabric, and it is from Joann Fabric, the store. I don't know why that was a struggle. So yeah. So what I like to do, like I said, I lay down that first strip of glue and then get that nice and lined up. Make sure that first line is parallel, because that's going to affect how your line looks when you cut it. And so I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. And so what I like to do, I like to hold the cup in my hand because it's easier for me that way. I don't like it laying on the desk because the fabric will drag on the desk, and my desk is always covered in glitter and glue. So but do what works best for you. And I lay down a nice, fairly thin, but saturated enough to hold the fabric, but not so much that it's soaking the fabric. Just the width of my brush, and then I flip the fabric over and press it down into there, nice and completely. Now, when you press it down, it's like soaking, like saturating it, you're probably using too much glue. But it is okay for a little bit of glue to come through. As you can see, when I'm rubbing my fingers together, because it does that weird thing that when you rub glue together, it makes those little balls. So always make sure that you're like wiping those away, because then you'll have to shave them off, and that just makes more work for you in the end. So that's what I'm doing. And so yeah, I got my fabric at Joann's. There's a lot of people out here that sell fabric for tumblers now. In my opinion, it's just way too expensive. I'm not paying $8 or $6 or whatever for one 12 by 12 piece of fabric that I can only do one tumbler with. But go off if that's what you want to do. That's up to you. But honestly, if you take a trip down the fabric aisle, the licensed fabric aisle at Joann's, they have great options, in my personal opinion. And let me talk about these nosy ass people in Joann's. I'm standing in line. I got 4 bolts of fabric in my hand because I didn't think I was going to get that many. So I didn't grab a cart. So I'm standing there. Everybody's like, what are you making? Like, I'm not asking you what you making with that curtain fabric. Minding my business. So I'm like, tumblers. And one lady, she just looks at me. Like, and I just look at her because you asked and I answered. Not just because you're confused now. That is not my problem, ma'am. Next time, mind your business and let me stand in this line at 9 o'clock in the morning in peace. We're all here. We all got here when the store opened, so we all lame. So let me be lame and make my tumblers, and you make whatever you are making. Thank you. All right, so that's the whole cup. And so at this point, I'm going to make a little overlap to kind of secure down where the line is going to overlap at. Spoiler alert, we're going to try to cut that line as close to possible as not overlapping, but you want to glue it down so you can have that little piece of leverage available. And so that's how it looks. So I let the cup sit for about an hour, and then after it sits, I come back and I do all of this cutting. And so you can cut it like immediately after you put the glue on, but this just helps to make sure the fabric doesn't slip and slide anywhere if you're kind of rough. handed like I am. So, but yeah, you want to, and another key to this, you not only want really good scissors, but you want a really sharp X-Acto knife. You don't have to use X-Acto knife. I think it's called, the real name is like a utility knife. X-Acto is a brand. It's like Kleenex and facial tissue. Y'all get it. And so I just use the ones from the Dollar Tree because I be dogging out blades because, again, I'm rough. But having sharp blades ensures you won't have frays all over the place. So I'm just going to cut that off at the bottom. And then we're going to do a little glitter on this because, you know, pizzazz. And so I'm cutting off the bottom as well. You could definitely tuck this and like make it a part of the cup. It's just way more difficult that way. Honestly, I would probably just cut out a small circle and do it like that. And so there are many ways, not many ways, but there are a few ways. I've also used Tack It to put my fabric on the tumbler. That's a little more difficult to do because you really have to be precise. And honestly, I was using Tack It first. That's how I even started cutting my fabric to try to fit my cup as close as possible, because that Tack It will mess up a piece of fabric, girl. I'll tell you. Use Mod Podge is much easier. And so that is how it looks after we've done all the cutting off. And like I said, it's been an hour. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and coat this in just straight Mod Podge. And so this is just going to help seal everything in, harden the fabric up, make sure it's adhered nice to the cup. And it's also going to enable us to clean up that line, and so it's not snagging and fraying and that it's not all wild. And another thing that I found that this is really important for is that you're pretty much putting a protective coat on the fabric to protect it from the epoxy. I've had times where I didn't coat my fabric tumbler the best, and then when I put epoxy on it, it soaked through the fabric and it looked like it had a little wet spot on it. So then I had to go back and cover it with like vinyl to kind of hide that imperfection. So just something to keep in mind, but just make sure you are, you know, protecting this and putting a nice coat of Mod Podge on here. If not, you'll get like the little wet spot look. And it's probably not that big of a deal if you're using like black, but like anything light, even including blues, you will see. So just a little FYI. And I'm just using the gloss Mod Podge, nothing special, nothing fancy. And I will leave a link to all of my supplies below, in case you want to pick up some of these things for yourself. But yeah, and I'll try to, sometimes they don't always be having all the fabrics on the Joann website, but I'll try to find a link and I'll leave that one below. Or just, like I said, just go to the store and walk down the licensed product aisle with the fabric. It'll be like with all like the team fabric and stuff like that, and you'll find it. And this is what it looks like after it's been about another hour. You know, Mod Podge, it doesn't take that long to dry, not when you're working pretty thin. And so you can see the line looks pretty good like this, but the problem is that little bit of overlap gives it like a little lip that I don't like, so I'm going to cut it down a little bit. Really quickly, a trick you can use if you're not the best at cutting lines straight, even though I'm not, is that you can put this tape on here, but that also depends on you to put the tape straight. So if you can't do that either, girl, just freehand it like I'm about to. So fuck, almost. Woo, anyways, forget all that noise because I was about to say something else. And just freehand the line. Be very careful. Your goal here is not to cut through both fabrics. And so what you see me doing is I'm kind of plucking it up to make sure that I'm only cutting through one layer of fabric. Because remember, our fabric is double right here. So make sure that you're only cutting through that top layer that we want to peel away and peel back that overlap that's underneath it. You can probably be like, ain't this the part we just glued down? Yeah, girl, it is. Now we peeling it away because we're trying to get that line clean and crisp. And like I said, there's still going to be the slightest bit of overlap, but now we have a clear line. And like I had snagged my fabric a little bit right here because I was yanking it like I'm the dang Hulk. And so the fabric is still pretty much in place. So I'm just going to use Mod Podge to glue that back down and make it look nice and clean. All right, and so for the glitter part, if you don't have one of these handy dandy tools, I will leave a link to this one below. It's really good. They're like 10 or 15 bucks, and they're really good at helping you cut straight lines. Now, again, if you're good at freehanding, you can make this line yourself. I can't freehand on a circumference, so I got to buy one of these little tools. And you just spin it around. You do have to use some pressure, and so I'm not the best at like applying steady pressure. So I be having to go back in with my X-Acto knife and kind of just help myself out. You could always spin it around again, but again, if you're not maintaining consistent pressure, you can move it up or move it down because, you know, compression and all that jazz and sciencey physics things that we don't really think about in regular life because we ain't scientists in real life. But anyways, oh, it's funny. I used to build rockets for a living, if you didn't know. And people would all be like, oh my goodness, you're a rocket scientist, because I worked at NASA. And I'm like, no, babe, I'm a rocket engineer. And they was like, oh my God. Then I'm like, believe me, it's not that cool. It's the most stressful job in the world. That's why I don't do that anymore. Anyways, so yeah, so we're just doing this so we can free up some space to put our glitter. You don't have to do the glitter. It's completely optional. I feel like adding the glitter is like a new thing, because like when I started fabric tumblers, adding the glitter like on the tops and bottoms wasn't a thing, but I feel like I've been seeing that a lot lately, and I think that's like the way to go. And so again, because we don't want that epoxy to soak through, we are going to go back in and just cover that little part that we exposed. Just recover it with Mod Podge just to cover our bases, to make sure that we don't have that epoxy soaking issue. So do that. Okay, and this is how everything looks when it is dry. Nice and straight line. All right, let's go ahead. This part gets a little jumpy because my camera, I ran out of memory card space, and then my camera died, so I had a lot going on. But pretty much I'm going to put some painter's tape so I can make sure I get some nice clean and crisp lines. Also make sure that when you're putting on your painter's tape that you are actually pressing it down, so that especially if you're like me and you add any kind of mica or acrylic paint to your Mod Podge, that's not going to match the cup and you end up having to go back and clean it up. That make sure that you're pressing that line down good, so that way when you pull it off, it's nice and clean and it didn't seep underneath the tape. And so I just added in, I don't have like every color acrylic paint. I do have every color mica though, but I wasn't fixing to look for it. And so I just used some purple acrylic paint, and then the glitter that I'm using is Starfire. Starfire is actually that girl. She's like the most beautiful berry pink purple mid color that I have. I love her. I've always loved her. And yes, she is named after Starfire from Teen Titans, as is Raven. In case anyone was wondering, we watch a lot of cartoons in this adult household. And so yeah, that's just Mod Podge mixed with acrylic paint. And then I'm going to just dump that on there. Yeah, super pretty. Love her. One of my favorite metallics, actually. And I'm just using my little knife to pick her up. You can see I had a little paint spillage from when I didn't press. And again, my camera died, ran out of memory. I just went ahead and did the top, which was much cleaner because I remember my own tips that I'm giving y'all right now. Because remember, y'all, I make mistakes. I am not perfect. And even when I... Let me tell y'all, I was filming this video. I was doing four fabric tumblers at once. And when I was doing the one that I'm actually going to be doing a Brite Tone one, spoiler alert, that one will be coming either next week or the week after. It's really hard for me to film during the week. So if I don't finish on the weekends, then I'll be having to wait till the next weekend. But yeah, I was on the fourth cup, which was going to be the Brite Tone cup. And so I started recording because I already did 3 already. And when I tell y'all everything was going wrong on the Brite Tone one while I was filming, I'm just like, why, Lord? Why me? But as is life, we live and we learn and we move on, and we just be thankful for waking up, because for me it's the little things in life right now, because we're still in the Papa John's and the world's just crazy. Anyways, just hit it with a little epoxy. I use the Counterculture DIY medium viscosity artist resin. I'll leave a link to it below. And then I'm going to hit it with a little heat. And then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Definitely feel free to add vinyl. If like your lines and stuff don't look good, whether it be the top, bottom, or the seam, definitely just coat it in epoxy and cut some vinyl lines and throw that vinyl on there, girl. Just make it work. And so like you can see, we got a nice fabric texture. Okay, but when you move away, it just looks like a nice picture. And that is fabric tumblers. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Don't forget, y'all, if y'all like this video, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I truly appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram at Period 6 Designs. Follow us on TikTok at Period 6 Glitter. Follow us or check out our website, period6glitter.com. I think that's it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.